You are listening to WTUZ Radio Podcast. Welcome to WTUZ Radio Podcast. I am your host, Rhonda. This will be real quick. I heard about this morning about former President Trump suing social media companies. So this particular article is from ABC News, and it says Trump says he's filing class action lawsuits against Facebook, Twitter, and Google. Former President Donald Trump said Wednesday that he is filing class action lawsuits against three of the country's largest tech companies, Facebook, Twitter, and Google, all of which have banned the former president from their social media platforms. At press conference at his Bedminster, New Jersey golf club, Trump announced a major class action lawsuit against the three companies, demanding a stop to the backlisting, banishing, and canceling that you know so well. The former president is currently banned from Twitter and Facebook, as well as YouTube, which is owned by Google, following the January 6th attack on the U.S. Capitol. The lawsuits, which were filed in the U.S. District Court for Florida's Southern District, argue that all three companies are actually government entities. Boom. Woo! Side eye. Now, those that have rocked with me for a few years, I have said that. Now, not particularly about all three of them, but I definitely said that about Google. Whoa. Let me keep going. Defendant Facebook has increasingly engaged in impermissible censorship resulting from threatened legislative action, a misguided reliance upon Section 230 of the Communications Act, 47 USC 230, and willful participation in joint activity with federal actors, the complaint against Facebook says. Defendant Facebook's status thus rises beyond that of a private company to that of a state actor. Woo! Boom! I'm just going to read that again. Defendant Facebook's status thus rises beyond that of a private company to that of a state actor. As such, defendant is constrained by the First Amendment right to free speech in the censorship decision it makes regarding its users. Experts say that argument may face steep legal hurdles. This lawsuit argues that these social media platforms are bound by the First Amendment because they are the equivalent of government actors. It's hard to imagine that any judge in the country agreeing with them on this point, ABC News analyst and former Justice Department spokesman Sarah Isgur said regarding the suits. Given that Donald Trump is no stranger to litigation, he would also know that if this lawsuit isn't dismissed on those grounds, he would be disposed, including about events around Jan 6. The former president said the lawsuits seek injunction relief to allow prompt restitution and really restoration. In addition, we are asking the court to impose punitive damages on those social media giants, he said. Since being removed from those platforms, Trump's social media impact has plummeted, according to reports. Moments after Wednesday's press conference, Trump's Save America PAC used the lawsuits in a fundraising pitch, asking supporters to donate immediately. So again, this article is from ABC News. It is called, it's titled, Trump Says He's Filing Class Action Lawsuits Against Facebook, Twitter, and Google. Whew. Well, although that was a short article, it was heavy hit with information. Now, I am no Trump card supporter. I call him Trump card supporter. Nor am I Biden supporter. But I do have to agree with a lot of points in that article, hence in his lawsuit. Okay. Let's start with the fact, the hard-hitting fact, and I'm still kind of taken back that it was put out there like that, about these social media giants as being government entities. Now, I've said that for years, specifically of Google. Okay. Now, let's just use logic, just for the sake of logic. When these social media platforms started, quote, quote, censoring, it was targeted censoring. Who was actually censored were the, quote, quote, conspiracy theorists. And it started with an event that has 3 numbers attached to it, starting with the 9 and ending with the 1. And because of censorship, I even had to code what I am talking about. Okay? So it started with censoring that particular information against folks that felt the official story was not accurate. That's where it started. All right. And it just got worse and worse and worse and worse and worse. And it was always targeted censorship. Then the next thing up to bat is, if anything negatively is said about the LGBTQ community, folks' social media platform was being censored. Specifically, content creators were being demonetized, right? Then it went from there to up to today. We see the virus. Heavy censorship with that. With folks' channels being taken down, folks' platforms being demonetized. Okay? Now, ideally enough, the content creators that were early out the gate questioning the virus and given the origins of where the virus came from were literally censored and shut down, only to be revealed last month, quote, quote, supposed leaked emails from Dr. Fauci saying exactly what those early content creators said the origin of that virus came from. So in other words, they were correct, but their social media platform was shut down. And hence, I'm in agreement with Trump Card's lawsuit that the social media giants are in sync, in line with whatever the government agencies want them to have on their platforms. And that's not operating as a private entity, that's operating as a government entity. And even government entities should not be involved in censorship. So in other words, these social media platforms are being used as a cover to censor the public. Censorship has gotten so bad on social media that a lot of the content creators are totally taking their content off of the major platforms and going other places, either going back to their own personal blog website or going to a more private settings. And a lot of them are strictly going to podcasting. Most of the social media content creators, including myself, we have separate platforms just for that purpose, to be able to switch over totally when the time comes from these major social media platforms. And maybe that's what needs to happen, because at the end of the day, it is the people that keep these platforms going, these social media platforms going. It is the people that built these platforms. It is the people where these platforms derive their revenue and their livelihood. So when you start disrespecting the people, disrespecting the content creators that even draw the people to the said platforms to generate said revenue, then it is time for the people to move on. It is so bad that Facebook fact checker is an absolute joke. They can fact check medical information. They can fact check history. They can fact check political content, but yet they can't fact check or censor hardcore porn and spam. So I think what we're seeing here is at a crossroad for these giant social media platforms. I will keep following this story. It's going to be very, very interesting. I know a lot of other content creators have been warning their supporters or their audience to get prepared if they have to leave the big social platforms, which some of them have, especially the heavy hitters, have definitely moved off of the platforms. I am saying the same, because it's only a matter of time unless social media totally cleans up their censorship, which if they are lockstep or behind the scenes covertly in cooperation with government agencies, which it appears that they are, I don't see them cleaning up their stuff anytime soon, which will just force content creators and the people to go elsewhere, because the truth can only be hidden for so long, and the truth will always prevail. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean that everything that content creators put out is the truth. By no means am I saying that. But it is certainly dangerous for social media to determine what truth is and who gets to give their particular narrative. Just the one example with the virus, with the quote, quote, conspiracy theorists getting it right, and they were penalized early out the gate, is a prime example of how dangerous censorship is by not allowing the public to have various options. Let the public make the decision on what they choose to believe or not believe. So with that said, I wish everyone well. This is Rhonda with WTUZ Radio Podcast. Peace and love.